Hey everybody, today I wanted to make a quick live video because I run into a lot of people who are not aware of what anxiety is. They think that anxiety is um, oftentimes something much bigger than what it looks like. And some people don't even know what it looks like to even know that they have anxiety. So there is a particular thing that I do with my clients. I go through what I call the anxiety pyramid because sometimes I'll see clients who have anxiety and they don't even know where they are in their levels of anxiety. And there's a lot of diagnoses out there that come specifically because of anxiety that most people don't even realize exist for them. And so I want to kind of go over this anxiety pyramid that I created to help you understand where you might be on the anxiety spectrum and what that looks like for your support moving forward. So I have my little whiteboard, and thanks to you guys for joining me. That's going to talk to you about anxiety. So let's go ahead and get started. So I break anxiety down into four specific categories, and we're talking bottom up. We're talking a traditional pyramid. There's a high form of anxiety, and then there's a baseline form of anxiety. And at that very bottom baseline of anxiety, you have what's called situational worry. This is where you're just worried for something very specific to the situation. So if, I don't have money to pay my car note, that's a worry. That's a situational worry. And so that's the very baseline of anxiety. And a lot of people live here on a regular basis. It's very common and it's very okay to have this situational anxiety or situational worry. This is not something that tends to go away for a lot of people. This is not something that therapy is often required. But this can create some discomfort or disease inside of the body and make you feel uncomfortable. So that's at the very baseline of it. When anxiety starts to peak for people is where people tend to go into therapy for this. This is where they start wondering, okay, something's going on. I'm not able to get out of this. It becomes more problematic than helpful for them. And they go into that second layer of anxiety. And that is where they are having constant worry and constant overthinking. So constant worry and overthinking is that second tier of anxiety. So you're thinking you're thinking a lot. You're always in your head. Sometimes you're in your head more often than you would desire to be. It's harder for you to relax. You get stressed out a little bit more easily than you naturally would. Things piss you off quicker than they would have if you were just in a simple situational worry. These things happen when you have that consistent, constant overthinking and that consistent, constant worry. There's more irritability, there's more stress, you're unable to relax, there's tension in the body, especially up in your neck. A lot of people, when they're anxious, they hold their breaths. So they're breathing specifically from their chest. And when you're breathing from your chest, you're getting all this tension wrapped around the band. So up in your upper shoulders, up in your upper back. Some people feel tightness in their stomach. So they feel tension there too. So if you're in that state, this is where I tell people this is the best time to go and get some support, some help. Because even if you're not sure what's creating anxiety, or even if you don't know that you have anxiety at this point, you know that you think a lot and you're always in your head and you worry a lot. And maybe you're having some tensions in your body. This is where you decide to reach out and get help from either a therapist. You don't necessarily need a psychiatrist at this point. Some people go to psychiatry only when things get a little bit higher, and we'll talk about that. But right at this point, you just need somebody to talk to. If that's a coach, if that's a healer, if that's another therapist, go and get some professional help at this point of consistent worry and consistent overthinking. So now that's the second tier of the anxiety pyramid. Now we're going to go to the third tier. This is the highest, one of the highest forms. Some people have associated this with OCD. This is obsessive compulsive. This is where you're thinking so much that now it's become a ritual for you. It's become part of your anxiety. You don't know not part of your anxiety, part of your identity. You don't know who you would be without this constant worry, without this constant fear in the background. Everything feels like it's happening to you, not for you. You start to feel like life is conspiring to let you down or to keep you in the suffering, consistent pain. You feel like you're here on a regular basis. This obsessive compulsive tendencies turn into literally OCD, where you're hyper focused on one particular thing and you're not able to get out of it. So if you've ever seen people who wash their hands obsessively, that's more of the extreme of OCD. Another more common, more simpler way of having this obsessive compulsion is where you're constantly worried about what people are thinking about you. You can't get that off your mind. It interferes within your relationship. You start second guessing yourself. You feel self-conscious all the time wherever you go, especially in your relationships. For some people, anxiety shows up the biggest in their relationships, especially in that obsessive compulsive third tier of anxiety. Those relationships start to become problematic. You might find the people that you're in relationships with tell you, you need to get help, or this is a problem. If you're in that space, that's when you've reached that obsessive compulsive part of anxiety. And that's where typically I like to say skills and pills help. There's different things. If you don't want to do psychiatry, you can always do alternative forms of medicine. This is where some people choose to do marijuana or CBD, or natural herbal medicines, or they go the aromatherapy route or meditations or things of that nature. Now, you can put all those things, but you're going to need a medicinal compound to help you balance some things out while you start building the tools. So this is where you definitely need some therapy, some professional support, as well as some form of medicine that's going to help you bring yourself back down the pyramid. All right, and so now we're going to move up to the fourth tier. I don't know if you can read that. That's paranoia, hallucinations, delusional. So many people live in this paranoid state and they don't even realize that it's a form of anxiety. This is a definite form of anxiety. This is when you know that anxiety has taken all the way over. It has hijacked your mind and brain completely, and you cannot get out of it. Some paranoia looks like, well, if I drop my kid off at the school, watching them go into the school by themselves is too scary. So your mind starts to make up stories like, what if they get kidnapped if they between my car and the walk into the building, or that person is looking at me, what if they're looking at things about me and all of my flaws, or different kinds of stuff. Your mind can make up so many things in this paranoid space, and paranoia is simply just another form of anxiety. You're just at the highest level of anxiety. So you definitely, no matter who you are, you're going to need some therapy. You're going to need some therapy to really work that down. If you've ever had people in your family, who are constantly worried that somebody's out to get them, or looking at them, or watching them, or they're the type of people that think of worst case scenarios all the time that often end in death or some sort of catastrophe, that's typically where that person really needs some support. So this is where therapy and or some medicine is going to be helpful. So you've got two spaces where therapy and medicine are going to be helpful. That's at the fourth tier and the third tier. Right here is just common therapy support. You can get coaching, you can get healing. You don't need any medicine to help with the first two tiers of anxiety. So if you're experiencing any of these things, this is where it's really helpful to go out, get some support, ask for help. There are a lot of people who I meet who try to do it alone, and doing it alone is great for up until a certain point, right? As you can see on the pyramid, up until a certain point, you can do it by yourself. But then after that, you're going to need somebody to help you especially if doing it alone isn't helping or is taking a lot longer time and creating more conflicts and problematic situations in your life. So this is why it's really helpful to go and reach out and get some support, get a therapist, get a coach, get a healer, get a doctor, get somebody or a bunch of somebodies in your life besides just family and friends. Family and friends are only going to help you, particularly at situational worry and constant worry. And even at constant worry, they may not be able to help you. Some people get really tired of listening to the same things over and over again. So yeah, this is the anxiety pyramid. If you've ever experienced it, I definitely help people with anxiety. So definitely go to my website, theselflovecenter.com. I work with a lot of women who experience anxiety, and they're so afraid of failure, disappointment, judgment from other people. They're afraid of living their lives the way they want to live their lives because there's so much fear, there's so much shame, and there's so much guilt. And one of the things that I help you to do is to rewrite that script so that you don't have to continue to experience that level of anxiety and fear on a consistent basis. So yeah, well, I hope that this video was super helpful for you guys, and I look forward to chatting with you again. Bye!